Thank you, Fred, for that introduction, to the Legatum Institute for hosting, and to you all for being here. I will keep it, as is characteristic, as Maxwell knows, short and sweet, and start with a quote by the English Catholic philosopher G.K. Chesterton, who said, "The old man is always wrong, and the young people are always wrong about what is wrong with him." The practical form it takes is this: while the old man may stand by some stupid custom, the young man always attacks it with some theory that turns out to be equally stupid. If intergenerational equalities were strained in Chesterton's day, he wrote that quote in 1922, more than 100 years ago, they've practically disintegrated a century later. An enormous political, economic and social gulf has emerged between younger people in this country, particularly those under 40, and their parents. The chasm between young people and their grandparents is even more pronounced. Politically, young people are disengaged and prone to radicalism, with a tendency to be highly sceptical of established institutions and ideas. The most acute manifestation of this anti-establishment tendency is the complete collapse in support for the Conservative Party, in sharp contrast to the party's strong base of support amongst older voters. I've often been known to say that the average Conservative voter by age is dead. And in fact, I'm reliably informed that a plurality of the party's donations come from wills, which tells you exactly how vibrant the right-wing movement in this country is at this moment in time. This intergenerational gap is the direct result of an economic model that has failed to deliver adequate prosperity for younger people. In particular, the modern British economy has failed to deliver affordable housing, reliable career progression and adequate conditions for family formation, all of which have traditionally delivered a so-called stake in society for upwardly mobile young people. Without this stake in society, younger people have little reason to defend the institutions and systems which underpin our social order. In the words of Edmund Burke, our society is a partnership not only between those who are living, but between those who have lived and those who are yet to be born. For at least the past century, each generation has been promised implicitly that it will have the same opportunities as, or greater opportunities than, the previous. When that promise is reneged upon, we shouldn't be surprised when the result is a rejection of the political status quo, and in our case, a rejection of capitalism. As a result of misconceptions about the role of capitalism in our current economic malaise, many young people have turned towards socialism. Market-oriented policies have received undue criticism. In fact, it is we happy few in this room who understand that capitalism is not the source of our current malaise, but the solution. In fact, our existing economic landscape is the result of a risk-averse environment and risk-averse policymaking, which seek to eliminate harms rather than striking an appropriate balance between risk and reward. In a number of areas, bad regulation is stifling opportunity. My boss, Bim Afalami MP, the city minister, often says that regulators are busily engaged in creating the safest graveyards. In 1997, this country had 25 regulators. Today, we have more than 95, and that number is ever increasing. And I'm afraid this is not a problem that looks to get better, but a problem that seems to be getting far worse. The solution is not to shy away from market-oriented policies or market economics, but to embrace the ability of markets to deliver opportunity and prosperity, not just to young people, but for our society as a whole. There is a growing recognition in the mainstream of politics and commentary of the need to deliver greater economic opportunity for the next generation. To make serious headway on this agenda, politicians and policymakers must be equipped with ambitious policy solutions to the issues that young people today face, which bridge the gap between ideas and action, which is why the Adam Smith Institute launched our new Next Generation Centre, of which I am the director, proudly so, a sustained policy initiative focused on delivering greater opportunity for younger people through market-based policy. We also look forward to continuing the ASI's proud legacy of championing the interests of younger people, which stems back right to our foundation in 1977 and to the philosophy of Adam Smith. It was Smith himself who praised, and I quote, the contempt of risk and the presumptuous hope of success, which he believed was characteristic of younger people. Nearly 250 years later, that animating spirit is just as potent, and the opportunities for unleashing it are just as profound. But in order to unleash that potential, we must first demonstrate that market economics can, in fact, deliver prosperity for younger people in areas like housing, wages, and family formation. Which is why I'm delighted to introduce our next speaker, a man who knows a great deal about the gap and the ways of bridging the gap between ideas and implementation. So Brandon Lewis, CBE, is the Member of Parliament for Great Yarmouth. He previously served as Secretary of State for Justice and Lord Chancellor, Secretary of State for Northern Ireland, Chairman of the Conservative Party, and Minister of State for Housing and Planning. Brandon is a patron of the Adam Smith Institute and one of the most robust voices in politics today for free market reform and supply-side reform, particularly of housing. So Brandon, the floor is yours.